I hope all of you are doing well. I'm Dr. Javeed Ul Aziz from IGNOU Regional Center Srinagar. आप सबको मैं वेलकम करता हूं। आज का जो सेशन है हमारा, इस सेशन में हम खासकर चैप्टर 3 और चैप्टर 4 जो है आपके इस ब्लॉक का, उस पर बात करेंगे। सो चैप्टर 3 जो है, चैप्टर 3 इज अबाउट physical, it is about Indian history, physical features, formations and characteristics. अगर इस चैप्टर का आप टाइटल देखेंगे, so it is, it can be read like this. It is titled like this: Indian history, physical features, formations and characteristics. इसके साथ साथ हम जो यूनिट 4 है इस ब्लॉक का, उस पर भी बात करेंगे, एंड दैट इज अबाउट हंटर गैदरर्स, आर्कियोलॉजिकल पर्सपेक्टिव उनके बारे में क्या है। सो कमिंग टू द फर्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ दिस सेशन, इस सेशन का जो पहला पार्ट है उससे हम स्टार्ट करेंगे। सो इट इज अबाउट फिजिकल फीचर्स ऑफ इंडिया, देयर फॉर्मेशन, देयर कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स एंड हाउ दे affected, what impact they had on the history of India. हिंदुस्तान के फिजिकल, इंडियन सब कॉन्टिनेंट के फिजिकल फीचर्स क्या है, उन फिजिकल फीचर्स की फॉर्मेशन कैसे हुई, और फिर उन फिजिकल फीचर्स का हिंदुस्तान के इतिहास पे, हिंदुस्तान की हिस्ट्री पे क्या असर है। दिस इज द मेन, इन द फर्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ दिस डिस्कशन विल बी, हम उस पर बात करेंगे। देन इन द सेकेंड पार्ट ऑफ दिस सेशन हम बात करेंगे, विल बी टॉकिंग अबाउट अर्लीस्ट जो ह्यूमन काइंड था, अर्लीस्ट ह्यूमंस जो हिंदुस्तान के इस इंडियन सब कॉन्टिनेंट में, जो यहाँ पे which dwelled in the Indian subcontinent, which inhabited this part of the globe के इस पार्ट पे जिन्होंने जिंदगी बसर की, तो उनके बारे में हम बात करेंगे। उन ह्यूमंस का जो मेन जो उनका जो सबसिस्टेंस था, जिस तरीके से वो जिंदा रहते थे, दैट वाज बेस्ड ऑन हंटिंग एंड फूड गैदरिंग। इसलिए उनके लिए जो टर्म कोइन की जाती है, जो उनके लिए टर्म जो है यूज की जाती है, दैट इज hunter gatherers. So in today's session we'll be talking about physical features of India, their formation and what impact they had on the history of India. And secondly, दूसरा हम बात करेंगे hunter gatherers, जो earliest human beings Indian subcontinent में थे, उन पे हम बात करेंगे, how did they live their life, और कौन से तरीके उन्होंने अपनाए अपने सर्वाइवल के लिए, अपनी सबसिस्टेंस के लिए, उन दो चीजों पे बात करेंगे। सो कमिंग टू द फर्स्ट पार्ट ऑफ दिस सेशन, जिसमें हम बात करेंगे अबाउट इंडियाज फिजिकल फीचर्स या इंडियन फिजिकल ज्योग्राफी जो है, इस पे हम बात करेंगे। सो बिफोर टॉकिंग अबाउट इट, इम्पॉर्टेंट चीज जो है, जो एक स्टूडेंट के जहन में आ रही होगी कि why is it required, why do we need to discuss geography if this is a course of history? Why should we discuss geography? Why should we discuss physical features? Why should we be concerned as students of history? हम क्यों पढ़ेंगे physical features? हमें क्यों जानना जरूरी है? So two reasons are there. दो broad reasons, और भी बहुत सारे reasons हो सकते हैं, but दो at this very level, two important reasons are there which make it necessary for any student of history, any historian, to understand, to understand physical geography of the region over which he is doing his research. जिस रीजन के बारे में आप हिस्ट्री पढ़ रहे हैं, जिस रीजन की आप हिस्ट्री लिख रहे हैं, जिस रीजन की हिस्ट्री प्रोड्यूस की जा रही है, आप समझने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं, उस रीजन की ज्योग्राफी को समझना, अंडरस्टैंड करना, उसके फिजिकल फीचर्स को अंडरस्टैंड करना, ये दो रीजंस की वजह से, दो मेजर रीजंस है जिसकी वजह से एक हिस्टोरियन या एक स्टूडेंट ऑफ हिस्ट्री को इल्मियत होनी चाहिए लैंडस्केप की, फिजिकल फीचर्स की, एनवायरनमेंट की, उस रीजन की जहां पे जिस रीजन को वो समझना चाहता है हिस्टोरिकली। तो पहला रीजन जो है, फर्स्ट अमंग द टू रीजंस इज कि ज्योग्राफी जो है, ज्योग्राफी प्रोवाइड्स अस द कांसेप्ट ऑफ स्पेस। ज्योग्राफी के थ्रू हमें स्पेस का कॉन्सेप्ट मिलता है। वी गेट टू नो अबाउट द लोकेशन, जो कहाँ पे है, ये ऑल दीज थिंग्स, दिस कॉन्सेप्ट ऑफ स्पेस जो है वो हमें ज्योग्राफी प्रोवाइड करती है। इसके कॉन्टूर्स क्या है, इसके कैरेक्टरिस्टिक फीचर्स क्या है इस स्पेस के, दैट ऑल कम्स थ्रू ज्योग्राफी। सो अगर हमें ज्योग्राफिकल अंडरस्टैंडिंग नहीं होगी, we would not be able to focus on the region itself, क्योंकि हम फिर then we would be lost, क्योंकि हमें फिर स्पेस का कॉन्सेप्ट उस हिसाब से नहीं होगा. सेकेंड इंपॉर्टेंट चीज जो है, सेकेंड इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग विच मेक्स द स्टडी ऑफ geography or physical features important for the student of history, वो ये है कि that soil which comes under is a geographical feature, rainfall, vegetation, climate, whole of the environment, they have historically, they shape human cultures significantly. So एक significant level पे चाहे vegetation हो, soil type हो, climate हो, या overall environment हो, इसका असर human cultures पे रहता है. So human cultures के बनने में, human cultures के characteristic features जो है वो बहुत हद तक human cultures are to a great extent, to a significant extent, they are influenced by all these factors. ये सब factors उनको influence करते हैं. So therefore किसी भी जगह का, किसी भी region की history जानने के लिए, history को अच्छे से समझने के लिए, we need to know, we need to have understanding of its geography. So physical features. So these are precisely the two important things. कि एक तो हमें space का concept मिलेगा, and secondly we would also be able to appreciate, and we should appreciate that climate, vegetation, soil type, and overall environment, it influences human cultures, and it has rather influenced human cultures. Human cultures के evolution में इन सारे factors का बहुत हद तक role रहा है. So similarly, जब ये बहुत important है, तो इसीलिए हमें for studying the history of Indian subcontinent, we should also be having some knowledge, some preliminary basic knowledge of its physical features. How did they came into being, and what exchanges these physical features facilitated? कहाँ पे ये obstruction के तौर पे थे, and where did it facilitate certain other things? So ताकि हमें ये समझ आए कि हिंदुस्तान की जो हिस्ट्री है, हिंदुस्तान का जो पास्ट है, इसमें जो डिफरेंट आइडेंटिटीज, डिफरेंट ग्रुप्स, डिफरेंट कम्युनिटीज जो इमर्ज हुई है, वो कैसे इमर्ज हुई, अगर डिफरेंट रीजनल वेरिएशंस है तो वो रीजनल वेरिएशंस क्यों है, all these things we will be able to understand once we try to understand the geography or physical features of the region. So for example, in the Indian context, अगर हम हिंदुस्तान के context की बात करेंगे, physical geography की हिंदुस्तान की बात करेंगे, and हिंदुस्तान की हिस्ट्री, इतिहास की बात करेंगे, तो you would find कि वेरिएशन जो है सॉइल में, किसी जगह पे सॉइल लेस फर्टाइल है, किसी जगह पे सॉइल ज्यादा फर्टाइल है, कुछ सॉइल्स ऐसी है विच आर मॉइस्चर, जहाँ पे जो मॉइस्चर रिटेन करती है, कुछ सॉइल्स ऐसी है जो ड्राई सॉइल्स होती है, एंड बिकॉज ऑफ दीज डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ सॉइल्स दे आर suitable फॉर डिफरेंट टाइप ऑफ क्रॉप्स. सो फिजिकल, जब आप फिजिकल रीजन्स की बात करते हैं, जब आप फिजिकल ज्योग्राफी की बात करें, तो हम देखते हैं कि वेरिएशंस ऑफ सॉइल, टोपोग्राफी, रेनफॉल, क्लाइमेट, जो व्हिच कॉन्स्टिट्यूट ए फिजिकल रीजन, जो एक फिजिकल रीजन को बनाते हैं. अगर आप कोई फिजिकल रीजन लेंगे तो फिजिकल रीजन के कुछ सैलिएंट या कैरेक्टरिस्टिक फीचर्स हो सकते हैं, होंगे. It may be having its own type of soil, its own topography, rainfall, climate, all these features. So these make physical regions. तो physical regions की जो ये variations है, एक physical region में और दूसरे physical region में, जब हम इन parameters के basis पे variation देखते हैं, तो ये variations translate होते हैं, and they have historically are translated into different other differences as well. So variations in geography have translated into variations in cultures. So physical regions, हम देखते हैं कि with the passage of time, physical regions also transformed into जिनको हम कहते हैं cultural zones. और हर एक cultural zone की फिर अपनी language, अपना food, अपने cuisines, अपना food system, अपना crop pattern. किसी रीजन में बिकॉज ऑफ इट इज फिजिकल ज्योग्राफी पॉपुलेशन ज्यादा डेंस है, किसी रीजन में पॉपुलेशन स्पार्सली पॉपुलेटेड है कुछ रीजन्स. सो व्हाट इन नटशेल वी वुड लाइक टू वी शुड अंडरस्टैंड इज कि दैट फिजिकल रीजन्स हैव अ रोल in the making of cultural zones. different physical features की वजह से different regions as different cultural zones भी emerge होते हैं. Say for example, if you in the Indian context, Indian subcontinent के context में, if you take example of Uttar Pradesh and northern Bihar, you would find that these are two very fertile regions. In terms of soil, they are very, very fertile. And because of that, because of this, fertility of soil, because of this kind of feature, we see it is it is very productive. And when it is very productive, so it sustained larger populations. So in regions को आप देखोगे कि that historically they remained very much populated. They were densely populated. अगर आप दूसरे regions को देखो, अगर आप central India को देखोगे and then the mountainous regions of central India, you would find that they had historically been sparsely populated. ये बहुत thinly populated है. So same way हम देखते हैं कि variations in geography जो है इनकी वजह से regions के across there is uneven development of regions because of variations in geography. एक region और दूसरा region के extent of development में भी there are significant variations because of the variations of geography. So same way when you look at a region as a cultural zone, you would find that and then try to correlate them, you would find that कि कुछ regions में because of its characteristic physical features, you would find that it has a unique dress pattern, unique food choices. So हर एक region की जो food choices है, जो dress pattern है, ये बहुत हद तक physical features determine करते हैं. Say for example, if you take the example of Kashmir, and then you would take some other region in the Indian plains, you would find that in Kashmir the dress pattern, dress code is different because for 6 months the climate is very much it's from cold to very it is harshly cold. So there are degrees could be in for 6 months, and for 6 months it is it's a temperate region. So अगर यहाँ का ड्रेस पैटर्न आप देखेंगे, you would see people using farran, you would see people using different other ways of keeping themselves warm. And whereas this kind of thing you would not find in the plains of India, in the plain regions of India, because so this shows us that geography plays its role in creating cultural zones. Same is true of food habits, because some regions may be suitable for growing certain crops. कुछ crops एक जगह पे cultivate किए जा सकते हैं, कुछ crops दूसरे जगह पे cultivate किए जा सकते हैं. Say for example in Punjab and Haryana, in regions में wheat cultivation is wheat is cultivated because of the characteristic features of this region. So दूसरे Gangetic basin में अगर आप देखोगे वहाँ पे rice is cultivated. So rice became the staple food of those people, and wheat is the staple food here in these regions. So geography plays an important role in the formation of cultural regions. And uneven development जो है regions की, that is because of variations in geography. So geography की वजह से, geographical variations की वजह से, there is uneven development of regions as well. And then if you look at the historical developments, you would see that there is an uneven pattern of historical developments also because of geographical variations. So geography and history, therefore it enjoys a very close relationship. Geographical influences, they have a great influence. Geographical features have a great influence in the making of cultures, in the making of history. So there is a very a significant relationship between geography of a region and its history. But then ज्योग्राफी जब आप हिंदुस्तान, जब इंडियन सब कॉन्टिनेंट की बात करते हैं, तो ज्योग्राफी आप देखते हैं कि दैट बिकॉज ऑफ वेरिएशंस इन ज्योग्राफी देयर आर डिफरेंट रीजन्स हिस्टोरिकली इमर्ज्ड इन इंडिया, एंड इट वाज परहैप्स फॉर दिस वेरी रीजन कि ये जो ज्योग्राफिकल वेरिएशंस different geographical regions emerge because of the physical features of the Indian subcontinent. इसकी वजह से हम देखते हैं कि this was also a reason for emergence of different cultures, for emergence of different regions, for uneven development of regions. And this uneven development of the regions, their uneven historical development as well, तो इसकी वजह से हम देखते हैं कि ये रीजन्स एट टाइम्स दे आल्सो एक्टेड एज अ फोर्स which impeded, which rather जिसने stop किया, which hindered India from becoming one political unit in ancient and medieval times. Early ancient times में अगर हम देखेंगे early times में, तो ये एक फोर्स था, ये रीजन्स, ये एक हिंड्रेंस रही कि हम देखते हैं कि पान इंडियन स्टेट्स उस बहुत देर तक उस हिसाब से इमर्ज नहीं हुई। किसी भी टाइम में हम एंशिएंट टाइम्स में नहीं देखते हैं कि दैट इंडिया वाज वन पॉलिटिकल यूनिट बिटवीन द हिमालयाज एंड बिटवीन यू नो यहाँ हिमालयाज और वहाँ इंडियन ओशन, इनके बीच में जो है एक ही पॉलिटिकल यूनिट के तौर पे नहीं आया। इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ द रीजनल वेरिएशंस, इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ रीजनल आइडेंटिटीज, इट इज बिकॉज ऑफ different cultural zones, and different cultural zones has obviously with the passage of time had their own setups, और उसकी वजह से हम देखते हैं कि ये भी एक फोर्स रहा जिसकी वजह से पान इंडियन स्टेट्स इमर्ज नहीं हो पाए। सो सिमिलरली हम देखते हैं कि दैट एनवायरनमेंट एंड ह्यूमन सेटलमेंट्स, जब हम एनवायरनमेंट एंड ह्यूमन सेटलमेंट्स की बात करते हैं तो हम देखते हैं कि एनवायरनमेंट का असर जो है, इन्फ्लुएंस जो है ह्यूमन सेटलमेंट्स पे भी रहा है। सो अगर होस्टाइल एनवायरनमेंट होगा, if the environment is hostile, then we may see that people migrate from that region. Agar environment suitable hoga, we may see that people may these regions may, or people may settle in a region, and regions may emerge as centers of power. So environment में और human settlement में भी एक relationship है। जब एनवायरनमेंट, अगर आप हिस्टोरिकली देखेंगे हड़प्पन सिविलाइजेशन जो हम आगे पढ़ेंगे, तो जब हम उस पे उस सिविलाइजेशन की बात करेंगे तो यू वुड फाइंड कि जो दो सेंटर्स थे उस सिविलाइजेशन के, हड़प्पा एंड मोहनजोदारो, जो ये दो की साइट्स थी, की रीजन्स थे इस सिविलाइजेशन के, दे वर देयर बिकॉज उस टाइम में जो क्लाइमेट था दैट वाज वेरी सुटेबल। When the climate became hostile, when environmental conditions did not remain same, different theories are there कि क्यों वहाँ के environmental conditions same नहीं रहे, जो हम आगे discuss करेंगे। So then we see that people started migrating from these regions, and that led to the decline. That was possibly probably one among the reasons for the decline of the civilization. So there is a very close relationship between environment and and human settlements. Human settle होते हैं उस जगह पे जहां पे उनको suitable environmental conditions होंगे। अगर environmental conditions suitable है तो humans may settle in a region, and historically this has happened. Harappa and Mohenjo-daro like places, they were habitable, they were habitated by human habitations were there because the climate was very much favorable. But once the environmental conditions became harsh, unsuitable, people started migrating, and that led to the decline of those regions. Similarly, हम देखते हैं कि कुछ regions ऐसे हैं जिनको environment की वजह से इतनी अच्छी advantage, बहुत ज़्यादा advantage मिली, and because of that advantage, they emerged as the centers of power, centers imperial, जहाँ से फिर empires emerge हुए. So say for example, if we take the ascendancy of Magad. एसिडेंसी ऑफ मगध में हम एनवायरमेंटल फैक्टर्स का रोल देखते हैं, एनवायरनमेंट का बहुत हद तक रोल देखते हैं। सो बी इट रिसोर्सेज, बी इट सूटेबल क्लाइमेट, बी इट सूटेबल सिस्टम ऑफ कम्युनिकेशन, ऑल दीज फैक्टर्स दे कन्वर्ज एंड दे हेल्प इन मेकिंग ए रीजन मोर सूटेबल एंड एडिंग टू इट्स एडवांटेजेस, इससे इसकी एडवांटेजेस बढ़ती है। सो देयर इज अ रिलेशनशिप बिटवीन एनवायरनमेंट एंड environment and human settlements as well. But while we discussed all these things, कि geographical influences से, geographical influences play an important role in the formation of cultures, in historical developments. They influence it. लेकिन उसी के साथ साथ हम या environment और human settlements की एक relationship है, या environment की वजह से कुछ regions emerge हो सकते हैं as powerful, and certain regions remain backward, are they may not be they may not be, or they might not have been the choices for habitation. So जहाँ ये सही है, so there are geographical influences and all that, but वहीं पे कि जहाँ पे ये सही है कि that there is an interrelationship between physical features, that is geography and history. And this is quite, okay, there is no problem in it. But जहाँ पे geographical factors को recognize किया जाता है, so it is all that is not problematic. But there is something, अगर हम ये कहेंगे कि that it is only geography and it is only environment which determines the course of human, the evolution of human cultures, then that becomes a bit problematic. And then that becomes what is termed as geographical determinism. So interrelationship between geography and history, yeah, recognize karna ki that geographical factors, geography influences human history, it's okay. But to say that on geography and environment are the only movers of human civilization, they are the prime movers, so that would be a sort of exaggeration, and that would then make us, to believe in, if we believe in that, then we believe in geographical determinism. And as students of history, as historians, we do not believe in, if we are arguing rather against the geographical determinism. So while we recognize that there is a relationship, there is an interrelationship between history and geography, when we recognize that geographical factors have an influence on historical developments, but uske saath saath hum ye bhi kehte hain ki we do not accept something called geographical determinism. हम geographical determinism accept नहीं करते हैं, और ये इसलिए क्योंकि एक जगह की, एक रीजन की ज्योग्राफी जो है, इसके जो फिजिकल फीचर्स है, जो नेचुरल रीजन्स है, दे आर द एरियाज ऑफ पॉसिबिलिटीज. ये कोई रीजन फर्टाइल है तो इससे पॉसिबिलिटी है कि दैट it may be more productive and it may become densely populated. कोई region जो है that it may, there is a region which has good means of communication around, so it can act as facilitator of trade. These are possibilities. So natural regions these can be taken as areas, areas of only areas of possibilities. So there is possibility that it may happen, but this happens, but in actuality जो possibilities है, possibilities are actualized only through human intervention, and human intervention at the stage of their technological development. This means कि इसका मतलब है कि अगर एक region के geographical features, एक region का environment है, it is all suitable, so possibility is there, but these possibilities need to be actualized. In possibilities ko actually, they have to be realized, and that realization comes through, that actualization of the potentialities, that comes through technological developments, that comes through human interaction, that comes through human interventions. So जब human intervene करेंगे, in that very, and then made उन possibilities को फिर वो cache कर सकते हैं, possibilities को actualize कर सकते हैं. So areas, geographical factors जो है, these provide us possibilities, but those possibilities then become realities. This only happens if those possibilities are actualized, and in the actualization of those possibilities, human intervention and the extent of technological development of the human society, they plays very key role. So unless there is human intervention, unless there is a level of technological development, those possibilities may not be translated into, they may not be actualized into, they may not be actualized, and therefore we say that geographical influences do affect, are there visible in historical developments, but to say that they are the only movers would be an exaggeration. That would amount to geographical determinism, because human intervention के अगर geographical potential होगा भी और human intervention उस हिसाब की नहीं होगी, technological development उस हिसाब से उस stage of human society की technological development उस प्रकार की नहीं होगी, तब तो ये actualize नहीं होगा. So that is how we should counter the notions of the idea of geographical determinism. And there is in fact a quote, you can say that nature determines the route of development. root of development क्या होगा? It is determined by nature. It is determined by climate. It is determined by soil type. It may be determined by vegetation. Root of development क्या होगा? That is determined by nature. But humankind determines the rate and the state of development. किस प्रकार की डेवलपमेंट होगी, क्या किस अंदाज की स्पीड से डेवलपमेंट होगी, that depends upon the human beings, that depends upon the way humans intervene, that depends upon what technological know-how the human society has attained. So therefore geographical influences are to be recognized, but at the same time geographical determinism is something that we need to shun, जिसको हमें we should not accept that. So now physical features हम क्यों now that means coming to just summing it up what we were discussing so far. So we are talking of physical geography is very important. Physical geography की हम बात करते हैं तो so it is very important. Why it is important for a student of history or for studying history? So that part is done. So हमने देखा कि that geography should be geographical features. Geography should be recognized as a force, as an influence. But at the same time, we should not fall prey to what is termed as geographical determinism. So ये चीजें दिमाग में रख के अगर हम हिंदुस्तान के basic physiographical features देखेंगे, and then we may also connect it with the discussion so far कि how those physical forms or physiographical features may have affected history in Indian subcontinent. अगर हिंदुस्तान के बेसिक physiographical regions की हम बात करेंगे Indian subcontinent की, तो you will find that there are Himalayan uplands, then you have Indo-Gangetic plains, and then we have the peninsular India. These are the three main physiographical regions of India, and each of these physiographical regions can further be subdivided into different regions. और इन physiographical regions के अपने characteristic features हैं, और इन physiographical features ने अपने तरीके से contribute किया है to the development of unique history of Indian subcontinent. Regions की identities forge करने में या contacts establish करने में हम देखते हैं कि that they played very important role. Say for example, if we take the Himalayas, तो Himalayas are the sources of three great rivers, perennial rivers जो है Indus, Ganga and Brahmaputra rivers जो है, they are the snow in Himalayas is the source for these rivers, and around these rivers develop different civilizations. So then we have if we look at the eastern, अगर आप Himalayan uplands को फिर आप देखोगे, so there are eastern Himalayas, then we would see that they go from all the way Assam to South China. Then same way we have the Himalayas stretching towards Afghanistan. And then if we look at all these Himalayan uplands, तो हम देखते हैं कि that whereas they have acted as barriers, but at the same time they had also facilitated connections between Chinese civilization and Indian civilization, between Afghanistan and India, between Central Asia and India. So we would find that the passes in these mountains facilitated the exchange of ideas, and they at times, so while as they also kept this region separate from other regions, but at the same time they did facilitate, they also provided certain passes and certain connections which connected this part of the world with the outer world as well. So same way, we have plains. The Indus plain is there, Gangetic plain is there. This is another physiographical region of India. Eastern, Western, Central India इसमें fall करता है. Then we have peninsular India, Indian peninsula की हम बात करें. This is another physiographical region of India. So because of these different, we have, that means अगर आप इन regions को देखोगे, these have their own characteristic features. Himalayan uplands, they have their own silent features. Same way plains have their own features, and the peninsular India, it has its own features. And because of these physical formations, we see that there is uneven pattern of the emergence of regions. Different regions are there there is uneven pattern. Some regions are comparatively developed than other regions. Some regions witnessed historical development at a faster pace than other regions. So ये भी हम देखते हैं. So we can see that due to geography, इन फिजिकल फीचर्स की वजह से इन जियोग्राफिकल रीजन्स की जो हम बात कर रहे थे, तो इंडियन कॉन्टेक्स्ट में भी हम देखते हैं कि बिकॉज ऑफ geographical features, we see that regions, there was an uneven development of the regions. So this is one part. Then due to geography, अगर हम देखेंगे geography की वजह से historically भी regions, historical development of regions जो है उसमें भी lag है. Some regions were ahead to certain other regions. So geography also determined that certain regions, certain in the Indian context, अगर आप Indian subcontinent ही देखेंगे, you would find that certain regions were ahead to certain other regions in terms of historical development. So अगर हम third millennium as an example, if we take it, third millennium BCE का अगर हम बात करेंगे, तो if you take three regions like Gujarat, Deccan and the present day, जो northwestern Harappa and Mohenjo-daro, which presently call in Pakistan. If you take these regions in third millennium BCE, you would find that गुजरात में इस टाइम में थर्ड मिलेनियम बीसी में जहां पे मेसोलिथिक कल्चर था. सो मेसोलिथिक कल्चर जब जो हम आगे बात करेंगे अभी हंटर गैदरर्स का जब हम दे देंगे तो विल बी टॉकिंग अबाउट इट. सो मेसोलिथिक कल्चर इज द मिडल स्टोन कल्चर. तो इस थर्ड मिलेनियम बीसीई में गुजरात में जो ह्यूमन एग्जिस्टेंस, ह्यूमन कल्चर्स थे वो इस टाइप के थे. दे वर मेसोलिथिक कल्चर्स. अगर आप इसी टाइम में दक्कन में देखोगे, you would find that there was Neolithic culture. So if you would see in Harappa and Mohenjo-daro around the same time, you would find that this was a civilization. So in the same time period, in three different regions of the Indian subcontinent, you would see different levels of historical development. And this is also this can also be explained to a certain extent by the on the basis of the physical features of India. Now, अब अगर regions की, so because of physical regions, we see that there were different regions in India, and all those regions had different characteristic features. Now, over a period of time, when state formation started beginning, जब ancient times में हम देखते हैं कि जब ये regions emerge हुए because of their characteristic physical features, जब ये regions cultural zones में emerge हुए, so या cultural regions में emerge हुए, तो we find that Indian history में भी इसका it had an impact. These regions became a force in Indian history as well. So what type of force they became in Indian history? We would see that because of the emergence of different regions. We see that because of different regional identities, different regional cultures. In ancient times, it was very difficult. It was very difficult to see or to facilitate the emergence of a pan-Indian state. एक ऑल इंडियन लेवल पे स्टेट के इमर्ज होने में एक बहुत बड़ी हिंड्रेंस हम देखते हैं कि these regions acted as a hindrance in that. So we do not find, हम एक pan Indian regional state, pan Indian state नहीं देखते हैं in ancient times, in early medieval times, किसी भी टाइम पे हम नहीं देखते हैं after the coming of British and then later on. So तब तक हम नहीं देखते हैं कि एक pan Indian state emerge होता है. The reason being that because of physical formations, because of the characteristic physiography or topography of the Indian subcontinent, different cultures, different cultural zones emerged. And those cultural zones with the passage of time had their own setups. And those setups, those had their own political setups as well. And then they impeded. They were not ready to, there was a competition sort of between different regions. And pan-Indian जो भी आइडिया था, कोई भी रूलर अगर any ruler who wanted to bring different regions under control, met with, there was severe resistance to that very idea. So that is why जो अगर हम Indian ancient Indian history में देखेंगे, there is a concept, there is a notion of Chakravartin, universal ruler का जो concept है, जो idea है. It was this because perhaps because of the regional variations, because of different regions, it was very difficult to bring different regions under one, control. And it was an idea, different rulers, different philosophers in ancient times wished, they desired to have a universal ruler who would rule all these regions. So that is why, there is an idea, there is a notion of Chakravartin in Indian, Indian history. So same way, because of uneven development of the regions, because of specific geographies, because of different reasons, we see that, there was a hierarchy of regions. One region emerged as more developed than other regions. So this was also because of the physical features. So to sum it up, that we see that physical features, physical features of the Indian subcontinent, they helped in the making of different regional cultures. And those regional cultures, at times, they acted as a hindrance in the establishment of pan-Indian states. But that does not mean that they emerged as, separate political entities, separate, completely separate cultures. In fact, whereas they emerged as different regional identities, different entities, but exchange of ideas, diffusion of cultures across these regions continued. So we see, these two processes of exchange of cultures and the formation of unique cultures going on, simultaneously. एक साइड से हम देखते हैं कि इनमें cultural interaction भी है, जो इनके जिससे एक बहुत बड़ी लेवल पे एक similarity आ जाती है, but at the same time we find that unique cultures are also developing. So अगर आज हम इंडिया में plurality देखते हैं, diversity देखते हैं, it is historical in making. It has happened, thousands of years back. It started happening thousands of years back, and it was, it took centuries in its making. So it is not something which happened, and it is one of the characteristic features. It is one of the features which, which should be celebrated. So it is historical, it is because of the physiography, it is because of physical features, and it's because of all these things. So this was, this was the discussion on physical features, formations, and their, characteristics. Now we'll be talking about second part जो है हमारा इस session का, that is about hunter-gatherers. Hunter-gatherers, and what is the archaeological perspective, about hunter-gatherers. So, if you look at human, existence on Earth, in previous sessions also I emphasized on this thing that 99% of human past जो रहा है, that past is that past where man has lived as a food gatherer and hunter. So 99% from the beginning of life, human existence on Earth up to now, अगर इस सारे time period को हम देखेंगे, you will find that इसके 99% part में जो इंसान रहा है, इंसान का जो subsistence pattern है, जिस तरीके से जो humans का जो life थी, जो गुजरी है, वो उसमें human being जो है, या तो he was simultaneously he was a food gatherer and he was a hunter. That means that fauna and flora components जो है, जो इनका role है, fauna means animals and flora means the plant part of it, the plants and all that. तो जो 99% part of human past रहा है, उसमें human being जो है, या तो वो hunter रहा है, he was hunting animals, और where he was a food gatherer. He was moving out in search of food, collecting food, eating it, and doing all such kind of things. So this is the prehistoric period. अब इस पीरियड में अब जब हम हंटिंग देखते हैं कि दैट हंटिंग वाज वन among the essential features of human culture. Human culture के कल्चर का एक essential feature जो इसमें था, that was hunting. And then we see food gathering was another characteristic feature of this period में. लेकिन हम देखते हैं कि that with the passage of time, whereas hunting continued, लेकिन हम देखते हैं कि with the passage of time, man, instead of being from being a food gatherer, human beings started domesticating crops, and he became the producer of food. So this evolution of human society, humans from food gatherers, hunters to domesticators and food producers, it took tens of thousands of years. जो सबसे पुराना पार्ट था ह्यूमन एग्जिस्टेंस का, जिसमें ह्यूमन बीइंग सिंपली एक फूड गैदरर था और एक हंटर था, दैट पार्ट जो है ह्यूमन पास्ट का, उस पीरियड में हम देखते हैं कि दैट मैन वाज मेकिंग यूज ऑफ स्टोन टूल्स. एक कैरेक्टरिस्टिक, एक सैलेंट फीचर था इसका कि जो टूल्स इंसान ने यूज किए for doing different jobs, those tools were made of stone. Maybe man may have used other tools of wood and wood as well, but we do not know because they have not survived. Stone tools had come to us, and on the basis of archaeological archaeology has archaeological evidences के basis पे हमें पता चला है कि that human being used tools thousands and millions of years back. And जो अब इस ह्यूमन पास्ट का ये जो पार्ट है जिसमें उन्होंने टूल्स यूज किए, इसको हम स्टोन टूल्स यूज किए, it has been divided into different phases. Different cultures में different cultural patterns थे humans के is part of his past. So one phase is termed as Paleolithic phase, or Paleolithic age भी कभी-कभी कहा जाता है, Paleolithic culture भी कहा जाता है. So it is also termed as old Stone Age. इस वाले फेज में इस phase of human existence में हम देखते हैं कि it was millions of years ago. तो it coincided with the Great Ice Age का जो period था, when whole of the earth was covered with snow. तो वहां से इसका आगाज होता है. And this Paleolithic age जो है, इसको फिर further divide किया जाता है as Lower Paleolithic age, as Middle Paleolithic age, and as Upper Paleolithic age. Now this is further division of the Paleolithic age. लेकिन इसमें characteristic feature क्या था? What was the main characteristic feature of this very age, whether it was lower, middle or upper Paleolithic age? सबसे बड़ा important characteristic feature ये था कि that man used tools of stone in this very, big tools of stone in this very, phase. Secondly, that man was a hunter, and man, joint hunting used to be there. Big hunting scenes were there, and tools were used for that. And then again, we see that this was the phase of food gathering. Here, man did not know how to cultivate fruits. He would move out, he would collect fruit. Nature जो उसको provide करता था. And so nature was the sustainer of humans. Animals जिनको वो hunt करता था, plants, roots, fruits वगैरह वगैरह, ये जो है, these were also coming from the nature. So that was the main sustainer of life. And man, इसमें what he did, he used certain tools of stone. Like अगर हम इसमें देखेंगे तो different types of stone tools were there, जिसमें आप ये देखते हैं stone tools like hand axe was there, clevers were there, choppers were, chopping के लिए tools थे वहां पे, chopper था, इसी तरीके से हैंड एक्स थी वहां पे, इसी तरीके से क्लेवर्स थी, स्क्रैपर्स थे, flakes थे. These were the different type of stone tools used by man during this very period. And man was not a producer of food during this very time. He was a hunter, and hunting was archaeological evidences tell us that big animals were, they were hunted, and then those that food was also gathered. So tools were used for that very purpose. So we have these are ये जो Paleolithic times है, जहाँ जहाँ पे इनके tools हमें मिले हैं, we call them we presume जहाँ पे भी इनके tools मिलते हैं, we presume that man or human being has perhaps lived at that very place during this very time. So we have such places, they are termed as sites. So we have Paleolithic sites in the Indian subcontinent. We have one Paleolithic site in Kashmir, पहलगाम, जहाँ से हमें लिदर वैली, जो लिदर रिवर है उसके बैंक्स पे hand axe has been discovered from that very place. So same way Sohan Valley, इसी तरीके से राजस्थान में लूनी रिवर के अराउंड, गुजरात में सबरमती रिवर के अराउंड, इसी बिम्बाटिका में हम देखते हैं in Madhya Pradesh. These are Paleolithic sites in India. So इसमें जो subsistence pattern था, hunting, gathering, large and middle-sized animals, they were hunted, food was gathered, जो खास animals जिनको hunt किया जाता था, ox था उसमें, we see wild boar, we see bison, we see these were the animals which were hunted. And same way अगर हम देखेंगे कि that natural product जो बाकी थी, like honey was fruits, roots, and man lived in groups, small groups, bands हम जिनको कहते हैं. So this was the type of life, this was the type of culture it was. So इस Paleolithic culture के बाद हम देखते हैं कि that Paleolithic के culture के बाद another culture was there जिसको हम कहते हैं Mesolithic age. It started some 8,000 around 8,000 C, Christian era के 8,000 के around इसकी beginning होती है. And this Mesolithic is actually considered as a transition phase between Paleolithic culture and another culture that is termed as Neolithic culture. Transition phase जब हम इसको कहते हैं, that means it had certain features. इसमें कुछ features जो है Paleolithic के कुछ features continue हुए, and then certain modifications were there, and it had certain features which resemble with the early Neolithic cultures. So that is why it is termed as Mesolithic culture. Middle Stone Age भी आप इसको कह सकते हैं. So this Middle Stone Age में हम देखते हैं कि that after thousands, tens of thousands of years, when man lived in Paleolithic era, उसके बाद there was some rise in temperature, climate became dry and warm, and because of those climatic factors, we see that there was shift in human behavior, there was shift in human activities as well. Hunting gathering फिर भी रहा, man said to continue to be a hunter, man said to continue to be a food gatherer. मगर अब इस Mesolithic age में हम थोड़ी सी modifications देखते हैं. We see that there was a shift from big hunting of big animals to small game hunting, small level पे hunting. And therefore अगर हम देखते हैं कि Paleolithic age में बड़े बड़े stone tools का यूज किया जाता था, तो इसमें हम देखते हैं कि that in Mesolithic जो Paleolithic age में जो tools यूज किए इनको Paleoliths भी कहा जाता है. जो Mesolithic age में जो tools यूज किए गए, they are named as microliths, क्योंकि इनका size in comparison to other stone tools that was very small. और इनका size जो हमें archaeology बताते हैं, archaeologists बताते हैं, that the size of microliths that ranged from 1 to 8 centimeter. So different type of tools जो इनके थे, like blade was there, core was there, point was there, geographical forms में triangle was there, lunate was there, trapeze. These were the types of tools used by the human being in the Mesolithic period, and these tools are termed as microliths. जो microliths, we have different microlithic regions, mesolithic regions. यहाँ पे अगर आप देखेंगे राजस्थान में है, नर्मदा रिवर के अराउंड है, सराय नहर राय यूपी में है, that is there. So ecology and ecological conditions and material conditions, they facilitated the transformation from Paleolithic to Mesolithic culture. And अब इस era में हम देखते हैं कि that a suitable kind of social organization develop होने लगी है. So there is an evolution of human cultures from Paleolithic to Mesolithic, and then we see the next important phase, man, that developing, and uska jo that is termed as the Neolithic culture or Neolithic phase. जो term Neolithic है, it was coined by Sir John Lubbock in prehistoric times में उसने ये term Neolithic use की. और Neolithic के later on दूसरे एक historian ने Golden Child, he said that उसने Neolithic revolution की बात कही, और उसने कहा कि Neolithic times में it was self-sufficiency, it was a self-sufficient time in terms of food production. So Neolithic times में हम क्या देखते हैं, we see cultivation of barley. Man started इस phase में humans started domesticating crops as well as animals. So from food gatherer and hunter, man, human being is becoming, he's becoming what is termed as a food producer. He is becoming, the domesticator of animals. So domestication of crops and domestication of, animals, it's a characteristic feature of Neolithic culture. So for the first time, we see that predominantly man is a domesticator. He is not a hunter. He is not predominantly hunter. He is not predominantly a food gatherer. Rather, he is a food, food producer. So, अगर हम देखेंगे Neolithic culture के फिर historians have, scholars have provided us the salient features of Neolithic culture. एक, that the feature era वो culture जिसमें practice of agriculture हो, जिसमें domestication of animals हो. So these are two. Grinding and polishing of stone tools. Stone tools of Neolithic हम कहते हैं, so it's the new stone age. So stone tools are still being used. अब फर्क क्या है कि यहाँ पे हम grinding देखते हैं, and then we see polishing of stone tools. So tools are becoming more and more sophisticated, and we see that in this very manufacturing of pottery is starting. Invention of wheel, that's considered as an invention over here, and then we see that in this very phase, these are the characteristic features of the Neolithic, Neolithic phase. So Neolithic phase के अगर हम देखेंगे Neolithic culture के फिर characteristic features क्या है, इसके salient features क्या है? One, that man is not a food, no more a food gatherer. He is not now even the hunter. He is domesticating animals. He is domesticating crops. He is practicing agriculture, and he is domesticating, animals. And because of this, because of this domestication of crops and domestication of animals, we see settlements emerging. We see small villages, prototype of villages emerging, and social setup, social organization getting, getting more, suitable. So we see this, this happening in the Neolithic times. In Neolithic times, we see that perhaps there is advancement in human, technology as well. So we see that grinding and polishing of stone tools is, there are evidences that man used it to grind and polish stone tools. So this is an advancement. So poetry is a very, very important invention. So wheel is invented, and perhaps wheel was used for the making of poetry, and we see that happening in the Neolithic times as well, in the Neolithic culture as well. So these were the characteristic or salient features of the Neolithic culture. Now Neolithic culture जो है, Neolithic culture in India, there are different regions which have been different regions के basis पे इस Neolithic culture को जहाँ पे हमें Neolithic sites मिली है, on the basis of that, different regions of different Neolithic cultural regions have been, are there in the Indian subcontinent. We have the northwestern region, same way we have northern region. इस तरीके से लाइक से नॉर्थ वेस्टर्न रीजन में हमें अफगानिस्तान के और पाकिस्तान के कुछ न्यूलिथिक साइट्स जो है दे फॉल इन दैट वेरी in that wheat and barley cultivated around 7000 BCE in these very regions of Pakistan. Goat and sheep, there are references that goat and sheep, they were domesticated in Afghanistan around this very time. So these are the Neolithic times. Mehergarh is a very important site, very important Neolithic site, and इस साइट में हमें बहुत न्यूलिथिक साइट्स में यहाँ पे हमें प्री पोट्री वाला फेज भी मिलता है जिसको हम एसर्मिक फेज कहते हैं, where there was no pottery, and then there is a ceramic phase where we have pottery available or when pottery had developed. So Mehergarh had these two phases, aceramic and ceramic, and this is termed as Mehergarh is जब हम Indus Valley civilization की बात करेंगे तो we will get to know that there was a connection between Mehergarh and the Indus Valley civilization. So rice cultivation की जो evidence है, earliest rice cultivating evidences in the subcontinent, we get them from Mehergarh. Same way we have Neolithic sites in Kashmir. Kashmir in north, it's also termed as it is a Neolithic region. In Kashmir, two important sites, Neolithic sites are there. We have one is Burzaham, it is in this in Srinagar district. It falls in Srinagar district, just some 15 kilometers from the main center of Srinagar, Lal Chowk. And then we have another Neolithic site in Kashmir that is termed as Gupkral. These are two prominent Neolithic sites in Kashmir, and these Neolithic sites have their own characteristic features. Say, for example, in Burzaham, we see, which falls in Kashmir, is a Neolithic site. We see that the dwellers, the humans who lived in these very sites, they used to dig pits. So pit dwelling, they used to live in pits. Pit dwelling is a characteristic feature of Burzaham. Same way, we find that these at those times the Burzaham people, of this very culture, they also used boom tools. So that is also a characteristic feature. Same way, we have another Neolithic site in Kashmir that is termed as Gufkral. It is in district Pulwama in the region of Tral. ये वहाँ पे है और वहाँ पे आप देखते हैं कि that dog burial की हमें evidences मिली है. So these are the Neolithic sites of Kashmir. Same way, we have Bilan Valley. वहाँ पे Neolithic sites है. We have Bihar में भी Neolithic sites है. Neolithic sites are dotting different, it's dotting the landscape of Indian subcontinent. We have sites in Eastern India, we have sites in Western India. Bhimbatika, that is a Paleolithic site that also shows us the certain features of Mesolithic site. So all these things we are finding in these cultures as well. So to sum it up, जो early hunters की जब हम बात करते हैं तो early hunters hunter gatherers की जब हम बात करते हैं, so it is that hunter gatherers का जो नाम humans को इस period में दिया है, it is based on the fact that during this very time human beings for their sustenance, for their for living life, for that they for satisfying their hunger या जिंदा रहने के लिए, either they at times were the hunters, they were as food gatherers as well. But with the passage of time, we see that human being also domesticating crops as well as domesticating animals, and this made man a food producer instead of food gatherer, and that is the evolution of human life from Paleolithic times, Paleolithic culture to Mesolithic, and then with the passage of time, man also learned, human being also learned, uh, and he or she used different metals as well, and that will be discussed in coming sessions. So with this, I conclude it here, and I hope you would have enjoyed this session. Uh, I take your leave with adab, namaskar, assalamu alaikum, and see you next time. Thank you very much.